Hey there, welcome back to The Daily. This is Adriana. Really wonderful to be back here with you today for another day of practice together. So before we get into practice, I had an experience this week that I wanted to share just in case it's applicable to you, where I was teaching a class in these live classes that I teach, there's always some space afterwards for thoughts, for questions, reflections. And there was a gal who mentioned that she was finding it really difficult this week to extend any kind of benevolence towards herself, any kind of generosity, any well wishes, feeling like she didn't have the right or she didn't have the place to do that at this particular moment in time. And I definitely relate. Maybe you too, as a human being, can relate that, there might be moments or periods of time that we go through where it's especially difficult to offer ourselves any amount of kindness, any amount of understanding. It might be in the moments that, we messed up. We did something that we regret, that we feel remorseful about, and we're having a difficult time letting ourselves off the hook. It might be in a moment when we encounter something about ourselves that we find sort of shameful or embarrassing. Maybe it's just frequently really difficult to offer ourselves some tenderness, some kindness, some benevolence. So I was thinking about this in regards to self-acceptance because I think, just speaking from my own practice and my own experience, having some kind of baseline of self-acceptance makes it so much easier to do the hard work. And when I say baseline of self-acceptance, I don't mean that we always have to agree with our choices. We don't always have to feel really good about ourselves. We don't always have to feel good about the way that we showed up or the thing that we said or the way that we participated in that moment. Sometimes upon reflection, there can be a little bit of ooh, well, that wasn't great. But I think as we talk about, evolving any of these aspects of ourselves that we feel, maybe are a little bit dicey or, aspects of ourselves that are harmful or painful, that having some amount of self-acceptance, the ability to look ourselves squarely in the eye, squarely in the mirror, which is what we do in meditation practice, and say okay, okay, you know what? Baseline acceptance. You are fundamentally whole, capable, enough, worthy, and lovable. And sometimes you mess up. Sometimes you do things that, upon reflection, you can't really stand by. Making amends is so much smoother when we're able to offer ourselves the grace of our own acceptance. Without further ado, we're going to move into practice and continue on with a variation on a theme of just placing our attention in our heart center and letting this be the place where we rest as we feel the body breathe. So wherever you happen to be, it's taking a moment to decide on our seat. And as always, if we're seated on a chair, couch, just making sure the feet are flat on the ground. We have this nice sturdy base we're working with. Connection to the earth. And then once we've found our seat, taking a moment to locate our gaze. So eyes open or eyes closed. And then we'll take a few moments here, as always, just to open our practice by opening our senses. It's locating ourselves in space. Bringing the attention over to sound. Receiving the sound of the room that we're in. Maybe noticing the texture or the layering of multiple sounds, if that's available. And if we're in a quiet space, maybe just noticing what it's like to listen through that silence. And staying open to sound, shifting the attention to touch. So feeling into the weight of the body against the chair, the floor. And just allowing ourselves to be held here, supported physically. And feeling the texture of clothing against our skin. And temperature of the air that's displaced around us. And dropping into the feet. And just feeling the feet here. And texture, temperature. Feeling where the feet make contact. And grazing the attention across the soles of the feet. And through the ankles, along the shin bones, and circling through the kneecaps, tracing along the thighs, and landing in the hips, and feeling where the sit bones make contact. And continuing to move through our body scan, bringing the attention to the sacrum, base of the spine. And it's beginning a slow, deliberate climb along the lower back, middle back, upper back, light extension at the crown of the head. Tracing the attention across the slope of the forehead, space between the eyebrows. Just releasing any tension that may have collected here. Softening behind the eyes. Grazing down the bridge of the nose into the jaw. Releasing any clenching here. Dropping into the belly, the chest, just feeling into the belly, the chest, barrel of the front body. Maybe just noticing if there's any emotional material that feels particularly active or alive in the space in this body today. Maybe, maybe not. Just checking. And continuing to rest here in the front body. Just dropping that anchor of attention wherever our breath is most available. Tip of the nose, back of the throat, belly. And we'll continue into practice. It's using that singular instruction that as our attention wanders, as it naturally will, it's noticing when we've left our breathing, acknowledging what captures our attention, and then gently, firmly coming back to the breath in the body. So as we settle into practice together, I just want to extend the invitation to bring our attention to the heart center, wherever that happens to be located for us. This visceral feeling of heart in the body. And just resting our attention here, allowing this to be the space that we breathe from. So again, no need to manipulate or control the breath. We're just allowing the body to breathe as it naturally does. But we're keeping our attention, our emphasis on the heart center as we feel the body breathe. We might feel into the expansion, contraction of the lungs, the rib cage, up near our heart center. There might be a specific point in the body where heart can be felt. It's continuing to feel the vacillation of breath as it moves to and from the heart center, allowing this to be our base, our return point, where we land. And again, in the moments that we find ourselves lost in thought, drifting out, no big deal. It's that light touch of acknowledgement and feeling the body breathe. It's continual release and return. So one quick note of encouragement here. If we find that we're feeling particularly speedy, restless, fidgety, spacey, and perhaps harboring any self-aggression or self-reproach about the quality of our practice today, I just want to invite us to soften that a bit. Just allowing ourselves to practice with what is. Softening our expectations, our ideas of what we think this should be, and just allowing ourselves to be with what is, sincerely at this moment. And again, when we find that we've left our body, left our breath, left the room altogether, no big deal. Just making that gentle return, ushering the attention back, feeling into this heart space in the body. Just allowing ourselves to rest here, breathing from our heart center. And again, walking the attention back, feeling the body in space, breath inside the body, and landing right here in this heart center, home. And then in our final few moments of practice here, it's closing with a bit of sweetness, as always. Maybe just a hand on the heart, giving ourselves a little nod, a little credit, some acknowledgement for taking the time, making the space, treating our own company like it matters. And then as you're ready, letting formal practice drop and coming back in together at your own pace, no rush. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful day. However much day you have left, I hope it is absolutely sweet. Yeah, have a beautiful one. We'll see you back here on the cushion